Should cloud gaming platforms be more open about their plans? We'll discuss it today on CloudBurst. Hello and welcome back to CloudBurst, the next generation in discussion shows. My name is Avery. Our good friend Rokk has been sucked into the Matrix and is desperately looking for a telephone to get himself back out, but we wish him the best and we'll see him next week. If you are interested in cloud gaming and intelligent conversation, this is the place for you. Each week we tackle one big cloud gaming question, no holds barred, and no platform left unturned. Before I introduce my panel for today, be sure to click that subscribe button if you're new here, hit the like button, and check out the Team Rokk membership by tapping the join button down below. Our panel are well-known and highly respected content creators, each renowned for deep insight, wide knowledge, and a long list of achievements. Today's special guest, we're glad to fill that sixth hot seat in the panel, is Ace from Cloud Gaming Extreme. Good to see you, Ace.
Hey, y'all. Good to see you guys, too. Thank you for having me be here. Appreciate it.
Well, we are glad to have you today. Let's introduce our regular cloud bursting panelist, brand new to the panel, a face you've seen before, and one of our most exciting additions to the CloudBurst panel, we must say. It's Mr. Duncan. How are you, Duncan?
Face people want to say, I think that's a bit of a lie. To be absolutely true, I'm here, but I'm just here, and it's going to be good fun, and I will get shouted at by absolutely everybody on here. So I think that's why I'm here.
We're glad we're glad to have you mixing it up, Mr. Clive Illenden. How goes your weekend, sir?
Yeah, it's good, thank you, and it's good to see Duncan managing his expectations there early doors. That's always good to see.
Mr. Lloyd, the beard looking good. How's it going, sir?
It's so big, and I'm tired of it, but I need to. So that is what it is. Things are good. Getting a lot of gaming in, getting a lot of cloud stuff. It'll be fun conversation today, I think.
Yeah, you can't trim it until it's long enough to do the Assassin's Creed braiding.
Yeah, I gotta
at which point
go back to my Viking roots. I got to put the beret right in the front, but that's
the Hannasons. Of course, you have to go back to your Viking roots. So, Mr. Gaming Advocate Chase, how are you? How's your weekend going?
Good. It's been good. The week wasn't as crazy as the previous week, so that's always nice. And I'm surrounded by awesome individuals yet again for another week. I'm excited to talk about this week's topic.
Fantastic. Well, good to have you all here, panel. Our question of the day is as follows. Should cloud gaming platforms be more open about their plans? And we'll kick it off with the Gaming Advocate. Chase, give us your thoughts.
So let's kind of break this into two pieces. So one, the answer is yes. But there's a little bit more to that. And we've actually talked about this on this show before about the data points that we see in the marketplace and the current landscape. But there's also data showing the next generation of consumers that are going to be starting to make purchasing decisions also value this even more than the current generation. What are those things? It's three pillars that consumers look at. They look at honesty, they look at transparency, and they look at loyalty from companies. When those are no longer existent from a company, they will move on to another product. We see it now. Again, we're going to continue to see this increase even more based off of the market research. So companies, it's incumbent upon them to make sure that when they're talking with their consumers, that on things that they can talk about, they're as open and as transparent as they can be, that they're forward thinking when they are providing rationale behind why they might be saying something or not saying something. When they choose not to do that, when they keep too many things too close, what tends to happen is consumers do two things. They get frustrated and they speculate. And speculation can be great, and in times it can be absolutely terrible. So it's kind of a middle ground. And I know this is none of us here are part of any company as far as in cloud gaming. We don't hold a position on any of these boards. We have no say in this. But it's important that these companies pay attention to their consumers. Consumers talk, they voice their concerns, they speak very openly about what their concerns are and even what they believe are great things from a product. And it's really important that companies, when they can, are as transparent as possible, give clear roadmaps, and do not do mixed messaging. Don't say one thing in one space, but then give a different statement in another, where then you give two competing sets of facts where either side can be accurate. And unfortunately, you then have turmoil that happens out of that. So that's my take on it. I think that you have to be open. You have to be honest. There's understandable circumstances where you're not going to be because there's contractual obligations. There's legal ramifications of why you can't say things, but there are moments where companies can speak and sometimes they choose not to.
Thank you, Chase. Mr. Illenden.
Yeah. I'm not sure the question's right. Now, I say that slightly, obviously I know what the question's going to be. But when we say more open, to be semantic here, you're suggesting that somehow it's like some sort of government and that we expect a certain amount of transparency. So we need to break down what we mean by more open. What we're actually saying is, what should they reveal to shareholders? What should they reveal internally about their strategy? And what should they reveal from a marketing point of view? So I think that's when we say, a company should be open. Should they be telling us everything they're going to do? No, that would be ridiculous. And I don't think that's the sort of the intention of the question, personally. I think what the question is trying to ask is, should they be clear and forward thinking in their marketing in terms of managing the expectation of consumers? Now, if that is the question, then obviously, yes, you want to be able to say, this is our product. This is why we think you should invest money in our product, and B, time in our product, because we have all these wonderful things coming. But the balance is obviously, as Chase touched on, there are contracts that need to be sorted out and things like that. So the balance is really communicating what you can communicate and where. Remember, they're not doing it out of the kindness of their heart because we're all curious, we're just curious folk. The reason that as a company you communicate is from a marketing point of view. So the question is, should they be more open about cloud gaming, and their plans? Does it suit their marketing plan? So where it suits the marketing plan going forward, absolutely. We've got these great games coming. We're going to have these features and, coming. We'll make some announcements at E3, just like any other company would. So I answer the question merely by first understanding what the question is actually asking. And if it's asking about, should they have a clear marketing plan that they can execute and express clearly to the consumer, then yes. Should they be just open generally about everything they're going to do? No, because they're competing against other people. And your marketing plan is one of your key sort of business strategies. And you don't necessarily want to share that with other people, especially with sort of competing companies, unless it's to your advantage, of course.
Thank you, Clive. Ace.
Hey, yeah, Clive, I think you did a good job just breaking that down. And I do think it's a good question, right? Should a company reveal their cloud gaming plans, right? And so, Clive, what you were saying was there's different structures of people in business. There's your shareholders, there's your consumers, right? And I believe like each should have different plans, right? You don't want to let your consumers know your full plan, right? That's different from what the shareholders are going to hear, because again, by letting so much out, the competition is going to know what you're doing, and that's bad. But here's the thing. I believe if you're talking about Google Stadia, GeForce Now, who it might be, I believe that they should be more transparent with their roadmap. If I just talked about this recently, Shadow Gaming PC, they just unveiled a roadmap, and I can't tell you how great that made them look like to the consumers, right? Because again, we know what's coming, we can anticipate it. I think something that you don't want to do is just leave it up in the air for people to guess, because again, that definitely makes you look bad, and it takes you away. It takes your consumers away. If they have to speculate, like we still right now speculating when FIFA is going to be available for Stadia, that's not a good thing. Again, I know it might not be up to Stadia to release that information. It might, not, it might only be EA, right? It's able to release that information, but nevertheless, I feel like if the consumers knew when that game was coming, like people will ask less questions about it, and it'll give the company an opportunity to build hype for the product or build hype for the software or whatever they want to release. But yeah, my answer to this question is they should give different, blueprint to different people in the organization. Marketing firms should have this, the shareholders should have theirs, but the consumers should get a roadmap. And I believe by doing so, it builds hype for your product. I mean, if you look at when Google Stadia hosts Direct, right, or Connect, whatever you want to call it, it builds momentum, it builds hype, and that's because people know what's coming, right? Put games in the store for pre-orders, people see that, they get hype. So yeah, I do agree that companies should have a plan, and they should have a little blueprint and roadmap.
Thank you, Ace. Mr. Duncan.
Am I allowed to talk about FIFA? No, we won't go down. Okay, first of all, I'm going to touch on a bit of what actually Clive said. I actually found my notes, which is good. I actually have notes, and a lot of what Clive was saying I actually had noted down here. But before I start, I just have to agree with Clive here. It's when we're talking about plans, companies should not be dishing out the dirt on what they're going to be doing in the next 18 months, because there's going to be secret things in there which they don't want their competitors to hear about. But just getting on to the general point, should there be cloud platforms be more open? Absolutely, they should. But it also is key on what stage they are at in their development. Some of these companies are, you don't know what games are going to be there, and so they need to be a bit more transparent that way. And one of the biggest issues I feel about this question is who they are is important. Some companies at this moment in time are more trustworthy than others. You've got some established players in the markets with like Xbox and PlayStation. You sort of know what they're going to be doing in the longer term. But we've got the new entrants into the market like Facebook, we've got Google, we've got Amazon, we have Tencent, and we might have Apple. And if I name all them companies, someone is going to have an issue with one of them, because there is a lack of trust with these brands in regards gaming and just general other concerns. So some of these new entrants will need to be absolutely a lot more open on what is actually going to be happening for their platforms going forward. And by what stage, I mean in regards to where they are. When PlayStation Now revamps this year, and if you don't know, PlayStation Now is getting revamped this year. Square Enix has actually dropped that out there. I don't think they were meant to do that, but they have, and PlayStation Now is getting done up this year. When they do their revamp, they're going to have to be a lot more open about what their plan is. When you're a bit more established, like Stadia is, you don't have to be as forthright on what all features and stuff are coming to it. They have to be open in a different way about the games. So again, as Clive has said as well, I said this in the private chat. I think Clive actually seen my notes for part of this here. I'm lying, by the way. But a lot of this is actually down to marketing and PR. And we know. I'm going to try and say this nicely. One company in particular is absolutely appalling at marketing and PR, and that is why there's some more people, or a lot of people are going, I don't know what Stadia's plan is going forward. They're not being very open, or not being very transparent. It's just even small things, just like a roadmap of what games are coming, rough timescales would just help with that, and just building up some trust in this marketing and PR aspect. Also, it's about what you can see in the open market. They don't have to come out with a PR piece or a marketing piece. You can just see what their plans are by the moves they're making. I'm just going to talk about I'm going to talk about 3 companies here. I actually have 3 companies down here. In Amazon, in Microsoft, and in Tencent. I believe Tencent is entering the cloud gaming market. They've already entered in the East. They will come over to the West. You can see what they're doing. Microsoft and Tencent are actually putting loads of money into acquisitions for companies. And Amazon, I'm not sure if anybody's seen the piece from last night. They are sinking $500 million. Yes, I'm saying that $500 million into making content. You can see their plans that way. So basically, it's just you don't have to spill your beans. You just need to be slightly more open. I've just realized I've been talking for too long, and everybody hates me talking in case I say something bad. But that's me for now to start off with.
Well, thank you, Duncan. And we'll wrap up with Lloyd.
Yeah, so I guess my answer is yes and no. Some companies we know almost nothing about what their plans are. We know nothing about what Amazon Luna is doing, other than they say, "Hey, we have channels." What does that mean? We don't know. Are you going to be able to buy games on Luna? Onesie, twosie? We don't know. There's a lot of questions. I think Google did a really good job with Stadia in making their developer talks open. Here's this really great thing called State Share. Here's this thing called Crowd Play. Here's all these great features that are coming. That was amazing to see. But then we also got 9 months of hate, because where's this thing? Where's this thing? Where's this thing? So I think it can definitely be a double-edged sword. So I'd like to see some of the other companies be a little bit more open. But I think Google's doing really what needs to happen. You can't be down on Google because we don't know when FIFA's coming. That's not Google's responsibility. That's the game developers and the publishers' responsibility. Platform holders oftentimes work with their big publishers to say, "Hey, we were having an event. We want to start talking about this. Do you have anything that we can have? Do you have a gameplay slice we can throw in here? Do you know?" But Google can't just randomly say, "Oh yeah, FIFA's coming next month, by the way," because that would make EA really, really disappointed, and probably blow up some of their plans. The one thing that I think Google has said recently with Stadia is that they're not being open with their roadmap, which I think is a really good thing. They're not being open to us, the consumers, but you know that they're being open to the developers. So publishers signing up, individual developers signing up, they know what the roadmap is. They know that this feature's coming. Gen 2 Blades, we'll throw that out because that's a fan favorite, which makes other people really angry. But they know that this new hardware is coming. They know that this new API is coming. They know that this new cloud-based AI for their NPCs is coming. They know that, and they're the people that should know that. Some of that stuff will be talked about the next GDC. Some of that stuff I'm sure will come out at E3. But it's going to be like every other major player in gaming has been for the last 20 years, where they have private conversations with publishers or with developers. Some of that stuff leaks out. Some of that stuff is meant to be public. But then we also don't know about a lot of those things until they start shipping out in games. Cloud is a little bit different, and it's thrown a lot of wrenches into the game industry. you're not just buying a product and then 5 years later you buy an additional product. This is something that is constantly in a state of change. We generally, when you buy a PlayStation, say PS4, you know that these are the features, but then you also have, over the years, Sony will come out at E3 and say, oh yeah, we're adding in the ability to watch your friends play, and then you can take the control from your friends and then you can play that stuff. But that isn't super common in the general gaming industry. So I don't think cloud really needs to be different, but I do think we need to know a little bit more. Like, what are GeForce Now's long-term plans? As a consumer, I need to know what's Shadow going to be doing to speed up the ability for an end user to get an actual Shadow PC. It can be a wait from a week to 6 months, so that's not super friendly for the consumer. Luna, we don't really know what Luna's plans are, other than here's a beta product and they're having channels. But what is that going to mean at the end of the day? We need a little bit more of the base knowledge for these products. But I think what Stadia wants to do now, which is clam up, I think is a perfectly good thing. They don't need to get in front of anything else. They're the only platform right now that is built from the ground up to show off games running on bare metal, just like a new console that is coming to the market. So I think they did what they needed to do during their first year, is to say, hey, look at all these great features. They're coming. Everything essentially has come out. Now it's just a matter of Stadia working with publishers and Luna working with publishers and GeForce working with publishers to bring some of this, the bigger knowledge of the whens coming out. But you should never look at a platform holder and be mad that a game hasn't arrived yet on that platform, because it's not up to them. They don't make the games. They just make the platform for the games to come on. So it's kind of a tough answer. It's yes and no. Some platforms we need to know more. Other ones, media, we already know enough. And I think being surprised is gonna be a much better experience for people than knowing what the next 12 months are going to bring for new features. I think Stadia focusing now on just bringing more games, throwing out the money hats to buy exclusivities or to buy development or to buy porting, I think is really important now. But we don't need to know that. We just need to see the fruits of that labor.
Thank you, Lloyd. So I'm gonna post this to the group as a part of this and get your thoughts. What part of this is an expectations issue of cloud gaming platforms that may or may not actually apply to the legacy game? I say legacy, the existing platforms that were there 2 years ago instead of 1 year ago. How much of this is a challenge that is unique to what we are expecting of the cloud folks versus what we would expect of a PlayStation, an Xbox, a Nintendo?
I think you've hit on something that I was thinking about. There is a fundamental difference between the existing console platforms, and that's a heritage that they've been there for a long time. And a lot of the games that we're demanding have been in development for 3 to 4 years. So when those games started off, like when they were let's say from a TV industry point of view, when those games were commissioned, the developers said, right, we're going to develop this game for PC, PlayStation, and Xbox. And here are our plans. And then after a while, they then communicate their plans and agree with the platform holders. This is, our title that we're developing on. It's a 3-year development. It's coming out on these days. So on these dates. So for about 2 to 3 years, it's already in the cement, the sort of the launch date, the platform that it's coming out on. The new platforms are in that kind of weird stage where they're trying to play catch up and get as many games onto their platform as possible. And therefore, you don't always see them, like on the end card, for instance. Sometimes you do see Stadia and other stuff. Sometimes you don't. And I think that's partly because of the development cycle. And I think that what you might see as the cloud gaming platforms become more established, that becomes seeing the logos, the Luna logo, the Stadia logo at the end of the sort of a trailer for a new game will become more. We already see it now, look at Outriders and all that kind of stuff, but will become more and more common as games are developed from the outset with that destination platform in mind. At the moment, as I say, a lot of the games are a sort of both for Luna and Stadia and other cloud gaming platforms are sort of a catch up. We're trying to get the games on games that were never initially intended to be on a platform that didn't exist when they were first started.
I'm going to be a bit pedantic here. But porting to Stadia, all you have to do is hit a button. There's no porting. You just have to hit a button. That is what the community thinks. Clive, you have said it there. But out there in the community, people think, oh my God, it is just so easy to port to Stadia. You just hit a button. And that's what frustrates the Wi-Fi for me. Porting to Stadia is, from what we have heard, is easy, relatively easy, but there is still a process. But it is getting made out there by a number of people. All you have to do is hit a button and look, there you go. If you're on Unity, you can just hit a button and there you go. No porting, no cost, no anything. You can just drop it in there. And I think, Clive, I think it was actually great that you have actually went out and said that there is actual more effort there than is required, because I don't think a lot of people actually understand that.
Well, it's also, you've got to set aside the teams, haven't you? You've got to make that decision. You've got to go, all right, you might want it. You might want your product on Stadia, but you might not even have the teams. You might not even have the resources right then and then to do it, but you might be working on a different game. So there's lots of things. Whereas if you'd originally planned as your destination platform, as some games have we've seen, or we've come in early enough for them to divert teams to sort of have that sort of destination platform intended. And then you'll see things like I say, like Outriders, where there it is front and center, or a lot of the Ubisoft ones where obviously Stadia have been talking with the Ubisoft development teams for a number of years, not for 18 months, so they've had time to sort of factor in Stadia as a destination platform much earlier in the development phase. So it's easy to say, yes, this title is coming to Xbox, PlayStation, Stadia, PC. Whereas some other ones where everybody go, where's my Fortnite? Where's my Call of Duty? Less so.
Well, here's the thing, Clive, and let me bring this into the conversation, because I think there's a couple of what I would call pain points that bring forward this type of conversation. And I thought this would be a good one, like, to kind of like open up these different viewpoints on this, because here's the first thing that I think is a challenge with this. I think Lloyd and Clive are on the right track with it, in saying that, and please correct me, gentlemen, if I'm misinterpreting this wrong from you, but physical platforms are required to sell units, right? Cloud is not in that same space. They don't have to be dependent upon NPD and all the other stuff, that they can just worry about game sales with the publishers. But at the end of the day, these companies still want to generate revenue. They have to make money. That is a given. It doesn't matter whether it's cloud or whether it's a physical console. It's all about a numbers game. They want to make money at the end of the day. And Google is no different. GeForce Now is no different. And neither is Microsoft in this. And I jotted down some quick things just to add to this that tie into what you were saying, Avery, about the legacy piece. That's one element of it. The other piece is that I think we do deserve as consumers to get rough timelines on games. That doesn't mean you need to give an exact date, but a lot of companies, meaning platforms, will at least say the game's coming in 2021. They won't tell you what the month is. They won't tell you what the date is. That does need to start being a trend. It doesn't matter who the company is. I think that just needs to be something that goes forward in general. I think the other thing too is that we still see from all these companies, and I'm not just labeling Stadia in this. This is also something I've seen from GeForce Now. I've seen it from Amazon more recently, and Microsoft just did it recently. Mixed messaging. You can't say one thing in one avenue or one space as far as in the media, and then say something completely different that counteracts it in another venue. What tends to happen is you then have two sides that then create a war zone, is the best way I can put it. And they have legitimate facts to make arguments because two different competing statements were made in two different venues. So that also goes back to the question about transparency. You have to be, to Clive's point, you have to be on the money with your marketing. You can't have three different people out speaking, saying different things. And I think that's important for companies to focus on one person speaking and not multiple people speaking, so that you kind of get away from that issue. And then the last thing that I had here was, hold on one second, is when you're doing these game announcements, and Lloyd brought this up about that it's the publisher's responsibility, and I agree with that, by the way. I think Lloyd's Well, hold on. I'm going to get to a point. I promise, Duncan. I agree that publishers should be the person that speaks on this. But again, what we do sometimes see from companies is that they'll hold an announcement back for themselves and do it at an event. And again, there you're giving mixed messaging again. So you've got to be really careful about how you set expectations. I think ultimately this conversation comes down to expectations. And as long as you're clear with your consumers and you set the right expectations, you don't run into a lot of these issues that we're talking about. And I kind of wanted to drill down on that and then also tie it back to the legacy point, Avery, that there is that difference. I think it's clear. They don't have to sell units. That's obvious, but they still have to make money at the end of the day.
Okay, I will jump in here to get shouted at by everybody. So here we go. Are you ready? First of all, it's Stadia or Luna or Facebook. They have to let us know. It's very, very simple. It's a symbiotic relationship. Stadia, Luna, drop the money, bring the games, and and if they don't have the games, and that's what it's sort of showing at this moment in time. They're not showing us enough. And hands up, who thinks Resident Evil 8 is coming to Stadia following the leak? I do. Yeah, we all do. Why hasn't that been announced? Because I have seen out there in Stadia land on Twitter, people are looking at getting a PlayStation now, and that is
Be
going
very, very careful with leaks, though. It's not official, so we can't assume.
Yeah. Yes,
the question is it PlayStation's job to tell us that Resident Evil is coming to their platform, or is it EA's job to tell us that Resident Evil is coming to PlayStation?
It's the publisher.
It's
Publisher, 100% publisher.
Or Capcom.
But the difference is PlayStation is established. And they don't need to. I'm going to go back to this, Lloyd, before I just go to this, about the legacy platforms and the new platforms. I do not care if it's a legacy platform or if it's a new platform. They need to sell the platform to you. Just like Epic has done in the PC market. That is a brand new thing, and they have went in and made a splash. And at this moment in time, none of the cloud services have went out there and gone, hey, look at us, come over to us. There's no big splashes at the moment. How did Epic get their 160 million users? And it's very, very easy. They made the service all.
they published Fortnite. That's how they got their. They gave away free games and published Fortnite.
They gave away the free games, yes, but that is sorry. The Fortnite is a slight part of it, but the reason why they've got 160 million users now is more down to the free games, because they've went and made that platform appealing to people.
I think the reason why Epic exists as a platform is because of Fortnite. That's the only reason why it exists as a game store.
Yes, but they've reached that position to get them into that position, or to draw the people in. At this moment in time, Google, Luna, Facebook, I'm just trying to think of all these different platforms.
That are not themselves stores like Shadow and GeForce Now. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yes.
What's up?
Yeah, jump in on this, man.
Yeah, you got to get used to it. You got to get in there.
You got to burst in. That's how we do things.
Kick the door down.
I love that. No, my whole thing is, I think this goes back to the whole cyberpunk when it comes to just companies announcing games. Duncan was talking about the Resident Evil, and raise your hands, right? If you think it's coming to Stadia, I would say the majority of the people here kind of put their hands up. I think, again, based on those leaks, if that's real, right, that is something that it's going to be happening. So my question is, right, we know that it's possibly coming. Capcom knows that it's coming. Google knows that it's coming. At what point, I guess, would they think is right to announce that, right? I think if we look at the Cyberpunk issue, you can make the argument that that game had a lot of bugs, and the devs want to be comfortable with that announcement, right? So it was like the last platform announced. So my thing is with games being announced for, cloud gaming, right? When is a good time for them to announce it? It's coming. Are they just waiting to get it finalized perfect enough, right, to make sure that it runs in the cloud? My thing, again, like I said, is hype can be built by an announcement, right? You look at Sony, they king of this, right? When they hosted their E3 presentation with the PS4, I believe it was the first year PS4 release, they had all this showcase of AAA games that was coming. Those games didn't come out till like 4 or 5 years later. But reality is a lot of hype was built for those games and the platform. People held off from purchasing Microsoft's consoles because they knew that eventually Shimu was coming. They knew that Final Fantasy was coming. So you can say that Google doesn't have like a first party official exclusive, but the thing is Sony paid money, right, to get these announcements, to get these games exclusively. And can Google do the same? Right. And what's hurting them from being like, all right, dude, we'll show you guys a couple of bucks, put our name in that, conversation, that discussion. I think that should be happening more, and I don't see why it's not.
It could be marketing, though. Yeah. It could easily just be marketing dollars are limiting them being able to do that. I will agree, though, Ace, just real quick, and then I'm going to be quiet, is that I do think part of this conversation comes back to, just very quickly, that I think folks don't want to feel like their dollars being held hostage. And what I mean by that is they want to be able to make a purchasing decision where if they're using multiple platforms, let's say they've got GFN, Stadia, Luna, and let's say they have an Xbox. Well, if their preference is 9 times out of 10, and I swear y'all, I promise this is not me picking on Stadia. I'm just looking at Stadia as the convenience piece. If 9 times out of 10 you want to play it on Stadia and you don't want to have to boot your Xbox up, then you might feel that position of, I just want to know, because if I don't know that it's coming at all this year, I'll just get it over on the Xbox.
Right.
And then if you don't do that, the other ramification, the reverse is, well, then as Google, did you just lose money because the publisher didn't move forward with saying something in a timely manner? And it's difficult. And I think this goes back to what you were just saying, Ace. We don't know what the behind the scenes dealings are with these marketing agreements, the contractual obligations. There could be reasons behind why it's not happening, to be fair.
But doesn't that really only... Sorry, Lloyd. I was like, doesn't that really only apply to Stadia? Because when you're looking at Luna, it's not that you're gonna get the game on Luna or not. It's that it might get added to Luna's subscription. On GeForce Now, it's, are you gonna get it on Steam or Epic or GOG or whoever else? We don't know what Facebook and Shadow it doesn't apply to at all. So in the sense of, am I gonna get it in place A or place B? The only one of those that applies is Stadia, because it's the only platform where you can buy a game that you wouldn't buy somewhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah, everybody thinks I'm completely negative in Stadia and I only pick in Stadia. I am equal ops. I hate everybody. So it's it is very, very fair. We had a discussion a couple of weeks ago when Hitman 3 launched.
Yeah.
GeForce Now got that day and date, and it was not announced until the day it was actually coming. And that actually, so that isn't just Stadia this affects, it is affecting other cloud platforms like GeForce Now. So I went to time with them as well. So it isn't just Stadia. This is happening too.
The one big complaint always, I touched on it, we've all touched on it, is Stadia's not announcing games, but when you enter into contract with a company, both sides have to uphold that contract. So if Stadia was to come out and say, yeah, Madden 22 is launching next week, it's gonna hit Stadia first before every other platform, they would breach that contract, and there'd be financial obligations that would have to go back the other way. And it's the same in every, you never have Sony, I don't think in their whole existence since PlayStation 1, I don't recall ever hearing a story of a game being leaked through an announcement. There's been games leaked that were put up incorrectly, but them coming out and saying, "Oh, you guys are super excited about getting Metal Gear Solid 4. It's coming to us as well." Getting in front of Konami. That will never happen because there's contracts going both ways. That said, if companies that aren't coming out with those announcements, they need to go into marketing agreements with other companies and say, yeah, we want to show off that this game is coming. We want to show off that this game is coming. We want to show off that that game is coming. Yeah. But it's not the fault of the platform holder that people don't know that a game is coming. It takes two.
So can Google be more aggressive in marketing then? Because again, you look at Sony, if a game is coming out, best believe either Microsoft, Sony, or I can't put Nintendo on that, but they're approaching these guys and saying, hey, can we, get some exclusive rights to this game? Can Google be more aggressive with their marketing when it comes to getting their logo and the name?
I think Google would be walking a very, very tight rope to do that, because they've talked about openness so much. So if they're getting exclusivity, that would be tough. But they can definitely go into marketing arrangements. Like a game, say Call of Duty, can have the marketing agreement with PlayStation. Other platforms can say that the game is coming to the platform, but they can't do like the big Super Bowl commercial.
Right.
But Stadia being separate, so I can finish my statement before people jump on me. Stadia being different, all that means is that this is a different platform. So maybe the cloud streaming, the cloud marketing rights could then go to Stadia, and you could have Call of Duty PlayStation, you could have Call of Duty Cloud, and they could do that way. But the way the industry's worked forever is there's contracts for everything, and if a company breaches contract, it's bad news for a very long time.
Well, Chase
and then Duncan. Yeah,
it's really quick. It's really quick. This goes back to what we talked about this past week about John Justice saying out in the open about it being a complementary platform, and their position may be, to Ace's point, they may not be interested in even trying to pursue these type of agreements. But that's where it's incumbent upon Google to be authentic with the consumers, to say we're viewing, again, across the board, not just in one avenue of the verge, saying to everybody, we view ourselves more in this space, even if it's short term. In the short term, this is our position. We're not going to be aggressive in these places. We're just going to get the games when they come out. And for emerging markets like India and South Korea and Australia, where folks aren't already getting these games day and date, they may view it as no big deal, because they're just going to get the game. They're not going to be as frustrated about it. Whereas to us, it is a bigger deal because we look at this a little bit differently. So I just wanted to add that in.
Okay, I'm just going to go on to this, and that is 100% where Lena have marketed themselves. They are a complementary platform. They are on record multiple times about that. On the part of it's up to the platform holder, it's up to the publisher. Yes, I understand all the marketing agreements, but where did we find out about Madden last week? It was through an earnings call, or no, a press release tucked away underneath by EA. This was a major title for Stadia. Yes, I make fun of Madden because it's a minority sport, and no one really plays it outside the US, and no one cares about it, and FIFA's so much bigger. I got it in. There we go. That should have been a showcase one where it was, oh my goodness, this is coming out this week. But no, we got it delayed, and it was actually Grace from her own personal account who was retweeting to get that information out, because Stadia are stuck in their ways and they just don't know how to actually show off Stadia in such a good way. It's just so frustrating just watching Stadia, and there is numerous examples of this over the last year and a bit, where this game is coming to Stadia sometime this, and coming soon to Stadia, and it comes out the following day. That has happened so many times. There's just so many easy wins for Stadia, and it's just unreal. And I honestly do not think it is the publishers holding back the information. I think they are getting told to hold it back by Stadia, and it is such a big mistake for them. And I'm just telling you this now, this Resident Evil 1, yes, I'm actually convinced it's coming to Stadia, but there is people out there who are going to be getting a hardware. They're looking at PlayStation 5s, they're looking at Xboxes just to play this game. If they leave Stadia, or if they're going to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation, they're more likely to play there, and Stadia is going to get left behind. I know some of us have got that, and it's another sale taking away from Stadia, and it's going to become into a vicious circle, which I have talked about many times, where developers are not going to bring their games onto the platform because no one's buying it, because they've bought them other places, and it just repeats.
But in the case of Madden, I hate to say this because it is kind of a slight towards Stadia, and y'all know I'm the Stadia shill, waiting for my Google Bucks. But in the case of Madden was in the top 3 of top selling video games for most of the last quarter of last year. I don't say that to say that Madden is popular. I say that to say that everybody already bought it. If for 3 months running it was one of the top selling games, that means it sold. So that means people already owned it. So that means that by the time it made it to Stadia, which was 8 months later than it should have, it wasn't as big of a deal. Could Stadia have done a huge promo for it and a big marketing push and a big whatever? Sure, to the 6,000 people that are going to buy it on Stadia. It's not, I hate to say it, but it wasn't a big deal, probably because it wasn't a big deal. When a new game first on the platform or day and date on the platform comes out and we don't get a big deal of it, Cyberpunk, they made a huge deal out of Cyberpunk. But Madden, it made it in the blog post, because if you really wanted to play Madden by now, you probably already did. The people that bought it are the people that have Stadia and don't have anything else. So to them, it was important and they heard about it because it was on Stadia. But it's not because they didn't buy it on their Xbox, because if they had wanted to play it, they would have just bought it on their Xbox.
It's one of it's part of these it's part of this catch-up legacies. I think Duncan's absolutely right. In an ideal world, 12 months ago, you would have said, here are all the games, here are all the dates that they're coming, right? But that information wasn't concrete, wasn't in place. Contracts not necessarily signed, or confirmation of dates, still in TBC, all of that. And I think the expectation is wrong, but the expectation generally that it would be great to have all the games, that are coming, all laid out. Yeah, of course they would. And I think if they could, they would. And I think you will see a sea change over the next year to 2 years as Stadia becomes an established platform. Bearing in mind, it's not on the scale of Xbox or PlayStation. So not every it's not going to be their first choice of platform. Some developers want to be on every platform. Some developers are much more focused on, from a business point of view, they've got to do the analysis and, okay, we'll just be on the 3 key platforms, PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and stuff like that. But generally, as we get into the development cycles and Stadia is a consideration as a destination platform and more games, I think we will see, and I anticipate personally as well, in the next sort of few months or the next few weeks, even some sort of Google Connect type thing where they will go, here is a massive raft of games. We can't give you all the dates, but here is a raft of games coming, to sort of just like feeding the cuckoo, just to keep the kind of proletariat happy for a while. But I think they'll have more to show than they would have last year. I think last year was playing catch up, scrabbling around, trying to get games on the platform. And the thing with Madden, it's a credibility title. The first people, it's not about the sales, as Avery have said. It has to be on Stadia, because when you explain Stadia to a non sort of cloud gaming kind of fan, whatever, they're going to go, has it got Stadia? Has it got Madden? Right? And you want to be able to go, yes, it has. Has it got FIFA? You want to be able to say, yes, it has. And I think it's just really building the foundations for Madden 22 and FIFA 22. They will be roughly day and date with all the other platforms. I would fairly guarantee that's the case. This is just like a kind of, not a lost leader per se, because there'll be plenty of Stadia players who will buy the title, but it's more a credibility title.
With the exception of Football Simulator, we should expect that the next in series will make it to the game, but Football Simulator being the one.
I'm just going to have this one wee tiny
Alright,
trend. There is a concerning trend. It isn't just Football Manager. That's all I'm going
Football
to say.
Manager.
Yeah.
There is 4 titles, and to see if anybody else can work what they are. 4 titles which were on Stadia, and the sequels aren't coming. We're up to 4 if Adam's thing was right from today.
So
And what that shows that Google gave them money, and then they decided to not give them money for the sequels because there's not the user base there. If you look back to what happened when the Xbox dropped, the original OG Xbox, with the controller that was 18 feet wide that you had to use, the big Duke controller, you had game announcements at launch. We knew that you're getting Halo. We knew you were getting Fusion Frenzy. We knew you were getting some RPG. But almost every multi-platform game, or what could be a multi-platform game, there was no talk of when it was coming to Xbox. Xbox hit, it did well, it sold like gangbusters, and all of a sudden it's like, EA's, we're making everything for Xbox. What are you talking about? We always planned, even though we said we didn't have any plans, but we always planned. And that's what's happening with Stadia right now. You need to have you need to be able to have a game launch on the platform and have the potential of selling 100,000 copies, 200,000 copies, 1 million copies before these big publishers are going to get on there. Because for EA, that publishes billions of dollars worth of games a year, between packs, virtual packs for the stupid gambling thing they've added to all their games, to the actual games, to the old stuff. They want to look at a platform and say, okay, we can not only make our investment back, our development costs, but we want to make 5 times what it costs to develop that game. I don't think Stadia is there right now. They're only a year old, but they have being the only true platform. They have the ceiling where this could happen. But we're still too soon in the birth of a new console, essentially. So it's going to take a while for those games to come out. I do think Google should really be opening up the checkbooks and giving money hats to all these publishers, saying, we want all your games here. But either they're not doing that, or they have doing that. Like, we know about Resident Evil because it was leaked, but we don't know if Resident Evil is still in development. We can assume because they threw money and they got money from Google, but they could have just said, you know what, this is never going to work. We're forecasting we're going to sell 3,000 copies. This is garbage. We're going elsewhere. So you might have an idea that a game's coming, but you don't know if a game's coming until the publisher says, yep, it'll be there on February 12th. That's when the game is dropping.
Ace, jump in there.
Do you think Google should take the hit, right? I know you guys have mentioned it all the time, right? Companies are in this to make money. But realistically, you see Microsoft paying money to get games on Game Pass, right? Do you think Google should take the hit? Yes, Resident Evil might only sell 3,000 copies on the platform, but we know that Google has the money to, again, we saw the leaks, 10 million, right? To get the exclusive, to get not even exclusivity, just to get the game to the platform. Yes, the game might not sell, right? But should they be taking the hits, like Clive was saying, the credibility of these games, the credibility of Madden, the credibility of, Activision? Someone's looking at Stadia as their primary platform, right? They want to know that these games are there, right? No matter if it sells or not. So my thing is, like we've stated before, is Google being aggressive enough? I hope, right? Again, this is year 2 into this. I hope that by the end of this year, hopefully they'll start figuring this out and they'll start being more aggressive, because I do think it's important for these games to be there. And my thing is, are they doing enough to get these games in the platform?
Well, you're right.
So
it's
the
about
problem
incentivizing. So it's about incentivizing. You're right. It's about in your early stages as a brand new platform, you want those key titles, but that doesn't mean you have to be selective in your spend.
Absolutely.
So you make sure you get the key titles. So is every title going to come to Stadia? No, it's not. Do you want every title on Stadia? No, I don't. Do you want the key pillar titles that everybody talks about when you go, I'm into gaming? Oh, what kind of games do you play? I play FIFA. Oh, great. Fortnite, whatever, all those, Call of Duty. Yes, you do want those titles to give it credibility. And if Google needs to incentivize those publishers in early days, because it's a sort of seeding the success of the platform, so that later on, years down the line, the publisher automatically selects it as a destination platform, then yes. And I think maybe that $10 million alleged, to Capcom is exactly that. It's an incentivization to get a number of key Capcom titles delivering on Stadia. And I'm sure there are other similar deals with other big publishers to get some key titles on the platform.
So I come from Duncan. I come from a background of blood donor recruitment, ironically enough. And one of the challenges that we always face was, okay, we're low. The shelves are low right now. We need to get donors in the door. Let's start offering a Fandango gift card, or let's start offering an Amazon gift card to everybody that comes in. And so great, you get that burst of energy, that burst of blood in those few weeks. And then 8 weeks later, when you still need more blood to come in, and you call them and you say, hey, would you come and donate? They say, yeah, are you giving away gift cards again? No, not this time, but well, just call me when you do. So for these publishers, they give Capcom $10 million to bring Resident Evil on the platform, and we get Resident Evil 8 and they sell 3,000 copies. Why would they then want to put Resident Evil 9 on the platform if they think, well, all I'm going to get is 3,000 more copies? Why don't you cut me another check? What if Google doesn't want to do that?
Well, you're seeding the platform, aren't you? As a publisher, Google is saying you help us succeed, and you will have another mass platform on which to sell your titles. So it's like a symbiotic. Somebody's used that word already. So well done on the old wank bingo game there, word bingo game. It's a symbiotic relationship. So what Google would be doing would be saying, we will incentivize you this time. Give the platform credibility. Hopefully more people, when we release the platform in greater number of territories, people will see these credibility titles, people will get into the platform, and then when you come to your sort of publishing decisions on your next title, you will see the benefit. Oh, look at Stadia, it's got a massive user base, which is enough for us to make that business decision.
Okay, I will make this nice and quick because we're coming to the end. 3,000 copies sold. I think you're being very generous, by the way. I think you. I'm not.
There were all of 1,000 people logged into Madden last night. I mean, come on.
Yeah. How many of them have actually bought the game? Oh, that is your thing there. Free weekend. What Stadia need to do, they need to be aggressive. They need to get the people onto the platform. I actually suggested this to someone earlier. They need to go for the Epic game model and drop a free game every couple of weeks, every month. Not as a pro game, just as, even if it's a stupid game like everybody's favorite, and I know your favorite game, stacks upon stacks upon stacks, just gets people building up their library of games on Stadia so it actually looks like a platform. That is what has helped Epic to become such a massive game store now. It is just, lost leaders. And I have said that many, many times. What Clive has just said, it's not about getting all the games on the Stadia, it's getting the right ones at the right time, and that will get the people onto it.
Well, as our good friend Rokk always says, we the conversation just gets started and we get to the end of the hour. I want to give a special thank you to our super chat from Sean McDonald with the €5 super chat, or pound super chat there. Love the show. Panel is the best place for a respectful debate. Will be even better when Rokk is back too. You know what? I agree. Right there. Superstars of cloud gaming. Absolutely. And then Victor with the $1.49 super sticker, which was a hot dog, is it a hot dog or a hot sandwich? We don't have time. We don't have time. We don't have time for that one today. Before we go, let's give the panel an opportunity to let us know where they can find you on the interwebs. Duncan, we'll start with you and go round the clock there.
You do that when I got myself muted as well. Want to Escape on Twitter and Cloudy with Games.
Fantastic. Mr. Clive.
Yeah, I'm at Clive Illenden. It's down there at the bottom there on Twitter and YouTube /Clive Illenden with the Stadia Monday Night Chat every Monday night, 10 p.m. UTC.
Our good Viking friend, Mr. Hannison.
Yeah, you can reach me on Twitter at Dasme, DASME, and you can check out all the stuff that we do over at nerdnest.tv. Our gaming advocate.
Well, first of all, we need to get Lloyd a flag that basically says everybody be quiet so nobody interrupts him. And then two, you can find me on Twitter at Phantom UFC Fan. You can search me on YouTube, The Gaming Advocate. And I do a Saturday morning coffee talk every Saturday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Coffee Talk. Good to have you.
I have everything but flags behind me there, Jason. So I need to up my
He
flag
drops a
game.
Han Solo on the. It's a Han Solo on the play. We're frozen in carbonite. And Ace.
You can find me on Cloud Gaming Extreme at Twitter, and you can find us at Cloud Gaming Extreme YouTube channel. Yeah, thank you guys. This was a blast just having conversations about cloud gaming. So appreciate being here.
Thank you. We're glad to have you on the show as well. My name is Avery. You can catch me on Twitter at CharmCityA because I live in Charm City and my first initial is A. And if you want to know what the W stands for in Avery W. Krause, check out my Friday night live stream that I did last night. Who knows? I actually revealed it live on air, even though nobody caught it. It's perfectly fine. You can catch me most Thursday nights on Stadia Source Roundtable podcast. And tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, it's the Stadia Game Show with real cash prizes, 12:30 p.m. if you want to be in the audience and possibly get your chance to play. And of course, follow our good friend Rokk at Stadia Rocks and hit the like, subscribe, all of those YouTube-y things that we always tell you to do at the end of every show on YouTube. We hope you enjoyed the show. We will be back next week with another question just bursting to be answered. And as always, stay safe, keep your head in the game, and your eye firmly on the cloud. Have a good one, everybody.